Our next presenter is talking about the process of change itself. Lisa Lord is a seasoned HR executive who has worked for companies like Pico, SAP, Sheraton Hotels, and Shire Pharmaceuticals. She runs her own consulting company, and as a working mother of 3, she understands what it takes to get ahead in your career while managing personal changes. Lisa will outline ways to embrace change as part of our natural human need to learn and grow, whether we wanted the change or not in the first place. So please welcome to the stage, Lisa Lord.
Good morning. I see people taking a quick break. I want to thank Cheryl for setting me up in my next slide because I agree thoroughly. The only thing constant in life is change. Have any of you ever heard of the saying, we make plans and God laughs? Yeah, you heard it? So in 2014, I made some plans. And in 2014, my company decided they were going to move their headquarters to Boston. And I decided I didn't think I wanted to do that. So I made a plan and decided I'm going to find a way to get a successor ready. And I held a great privileged position of being an executive, so I'd be offered a separation package. It could buy me some time to determine what I wanted to do next with my life. It sounded like a great plan, no question. And 6 months later, I found myself unemployed, no income, about to lose my marriage of 30 years, being sued for contempt by my husband because I was no longer paying his bills. I was the breadwinner in the family. This happens. We make plans and life shows up. And the universe laughs, or God laughs. Here's the really funny part. I am an expert on change management. I mean, if there were such a thing, I'm that thing. So way back when I got my master's degree, I studied change. And I learned all about what it took to overcome resistance to change, how to help organizations go through change. If anyone knew anything about change, it was me. And yet here I was, experiencing a change I had not anticipated. I was not prepared for this. I did not expect any of this. And I'm seeing head nods because something's happened to you along the way that you did not expect. Here's what I know about change for sure. As human beings, we're wired to learn and to grow and to change. Like, anybody ever have a baby or see a baby? I find it fascinating how they go from just being this lump to being able to lift their head, to roll over, to eventually walk, right? They're hardwired to grow and change, to learn. But something happens once we start growing. All of a sudden, people say, watch out, don't get hurt. And fear enters, and our egos and our personalities enter. And all of a sudden, we start resisting change. When in reality, we're hardwired to learn and grow. So here's what I want to do today. I'm going to spend my time with you helping you understand change, kind of what's going on in ourselves as we go through change, and what you can do to be able to get better at dealing with it. Here's the really good news, so I'll just let you know this in advance. That was 2014. I'm running my own business. I live with a man who I adore. Life is great, and I went through a really, really hard time. My guess is I'm going to make a plan that somebody's going to dump on again. But we're going to have to get ourselves up and learn how to get over it. So I'm going to give you the tips to how to do that. And the first thing I really think it's important for you to know is that each one of you has a change bank account. It's baked into you as a human being. You have a change bank account. And there are ways for you to continue to grow that bank account, and there are ways that we deplete this bank account. The ways you build your balance in the bank account is through your lived experiences. So those jobs that don't go so well and you learn something new, chalk it up to, I've experienced change. I understand it now. And that's giving me more balance in my bank account. As human beings, we're kind of elastic that way. The more we stretch, the more we stay stretched. So you've got to give yourself opportunity to learn. The more you invest in yourself, the more you grow. Like all of you signed up to come here today. Thank you for doing that. It's a pleasure to see you. And you signed up to invest in yourself. That means you signed up to learn and grow. You are building a balance in your change account. And every time you experience something that matches what you expected, you feel stronger and you have a stronger bank account. But here's the reality. As women, we are overspenders. I know those of you who shop are shocked by that, but we are absolutely overspenders. We spend more from our change bank account than we do to replenish it. We say yes to too many things. We create plans that don't go the way we want, and that experience depletes our bank account. We waste funds more than anyone else. We spend on worry. We spend on wonder and speculation. Should I, shouldn't I? Every time you say to yourself, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm not sure I'm good enough. Oh, I'm not sure that's right. You're spending from your change bank account. The killer for me, the one that really gets me, is social media. Like when you see somebody who's doing well, you want to be really happy for them, and then I think, oh God, she's doing that so well, maybe I'm not good enough. Spending from my change bank account, depleting every time that happens. And this idea of underestimating the cost of personal change is the one women are the worst at. Oh yeah, I can handle it all. Sure, I can do that for you. I'm happy to contribute the cupcakes. I'm happy to show up at the children's event. I'm happy to volunteer for that organization. Yes. Well, the problem with that is if you haven't built your change bank account, you're depleting it. And when we underestimate what we've spent on our personal lives, and we show up at work, and now we're told your headquarters are going to be moving to a city that you don't want to move to, or you're getting a new boss, or we're taking away your office and you're going to a cubicle, or we're moving your location to the back part of the building where nobody will ever see you again. Like, all of these things are change that cost from the same bank account. You don't get a separate bank account for your work and for your home life. You show up at work, and the fact is, if you've got a loved one struggling with a condition that makes life difficult for them, you're worried. You're spending from your bank account. If you've got a family member who's struggling with anything, that's draining your bank account. And the key is to build that account. Now, here's the thing about change. Oops. You should be thinking about what's in your account, but you should also be thinking about, gosh, what are the changes I'm going through right now? What's starting to tap into my account? And you can look at this on a really traditional change curve. Some of you may have seen this before. It looks a lot like the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross curve of death and dying. And you're not dying, I promise you. It's just change. So here's the thing about change. You go through a pretty predictable pattern. There's denial, and then some resistance, and then you finally make the transition, and eventually you explore and you commit. Let's give an example of this, a really easy one. Anybody ever drive to work and all of a sudden you see they're putting up a detour? Don't you hate that? It's like, I just finally know when to leave so I can get there on time, and they're going to be doing work on the road. There's a detour. So at first, it says the detour will start on November 1st. And on November 1st, you get there and you're like, maybe they haven't started yet. So I'll go my usual way. This is denial. Okay. You go your usual way, and you're on your way, and you're like, cool, I got away with it. Good. But now it's a week later, and you think you can still get away with it, and you go, and all of a sudden, they've stopped you. And you have to turn around and double back, and now you're going to get late to work. And so now you're kind of pissed. And you're really, really irritated that this change is happening. This is the start of resistance. It shows up again the next day when you forget that you had to turn around and you go the same way. And oh my God, they're making me turn around again. Ultimately, you finally decide, fine. I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go the detour. I'm going to add the 10 minutes to my commute. I'm getting used to it. That's when you're in this place of transition. It's like, all right, I'm starting to do it this way. But the real exciting part is when you get to exploration and you discover, oh my God, there is a Trader Joe's on my way to work if I go this way. I love Trader Joe's. I can't wait to stop there. I'm going to stop there on my way home. And thank God there's a Trader Joe's. I can get exactly what I want. That's my favorite grocery store. And then you commit to driving that way because now you see a benefit in it. Okay, got it? This is the change curve. Now, remember, we were talking about your bank account. The first part of this curve is all about spending from your bank account. When you're in denial, when you're resistant, before you agree to take that step and do the change, you are spending from your bank account. The good news is, as soon as you open up to learn and explore and discover, you are adding to your bank account. As quick as you can get to discovery, the faster you get there, the less money you're going to spend on this change. Now, why is that important? If I don't spend the money on the change now, then the money's going to be there when I need it, when they make me sit in that cubicle, or when I have to apply for a new job, or when I suffer a personal loss. Where are you on the change curve? Can you hand me my water? Yes. Thank you. So think about where you are on the change curve. And let me tell you a little bit more of the bad news. While the human condition, we are wired to learn and grow, it is also incredibly natural to resist change. It's how we're wired. We have this thing called an ego. It's our personality. It keeps us safe in the world. It keeps us from doing ridiculous things. It's not the ego that says, I'm better than everybody else. It's the personality that sort of shows up as a result of how we were raised, maybe even by our generation, the influences in our lives. And every part of us has learned this is safe and this is unsafe. And our ego tries to keep us on the safe side. When we see something new, we think it's unsafe. So the scientific way of talking about change is that resistance is simply a function of a change in the status quo. So when something's different than you expected, your natural reaction is to resist. It's how we're wired. We are a paradox. We want to learn and grow, and yet we resist. It's a natural tension. That's welcome to the complexity of being a human being. Now, the degrees of resistance we can actually affect. So I'm going to give you some tips on what you can do to be able to make that resistance not so significant. So again, you can reduce it so that your bank account isn't spent on resistance and you've got money left to handle the changes that are going to happen. It's inevitable. First thing you can do, know what to expect. We tend to want to put our heads in the sand. And I bet every one of you could think of an occasion when you probably knew what was going on, but you didn't want to admit it. So let's take this simple example of the cubicle in the office. I've seen this happen so many times. There are probably a year of conversations about the fact that the new CEO thinks open workspace is the best thing to have. In fact, every company I've ever worked for where they went to an open workspace, there were rumors about it about a year in advance. When my headquarters moved to Boston, there were rumors about it a year in advance. It's up to you to know what to expect. You have control over asking questions, looking for information. And sometimes they don't have the answers. So for instance, when my office went to cubicles, well, yes, he wants to do it, but he's not sure how or if we could do it in this building. So that meant, okay, it's gonna happen, but I don't know when it's gonna happen. I still know more than if I had my head buried in the sand and thought it's never going to happen. Knowing what to expect makes change easier. When you are going through a change, when you can identify what's going to happen so that once it does happen, your experience matches your expectation, it doesn't cost as much money from your change bank account. Years ago, we had to do a very difficult task of downsizing at a company I worked at. And I was the change management expert, and I told the vice president of customer service at the time, no one's going to be happy about this. And you've got to understand that that cannot be one of your goals. Because who's going to be happy about losing 30% of the workforce? It's not possible. So let's set some realistic goals. And our goals were, let's make sure people know what to expect. They know when we're going to decide how many people are going to go. They will know how we're going to choose the people who get to stay. They know what the package is going to be available when they leave. And we had a goal on the wall that said, if anyone is asked about the change, that they will respond, at least I knew what to expect. And can I tell you, the Philadelphia Inquirer stopped one of our employees on their way out of work, said, I heard they're downsizing your whole department, and quoted in the Inquirer, I know it's awful, but at least they told us what to expect. It doesn't make the change any easier, but it does help you. It's also on the good side. Like when I was having children, I know this book is still around and now it's available as an app on your iPhone. What to know when you're expecting, right? When you were having kids. And I loved every week looking, ooh, what can I expect? What can I expect? It helps when you know what to expect. You have less resistance, less spend from your limited change bank account. Second thing that can help you with resistance, know and seek out support that's available. There's always somebody who can help. And this is another thing that drives me crazy about us as women. And I am as guilty of it as the next one. We always think we should do it ourselves. We go through difficult times and no, that's not necessary. Over the holiday, my mom's getting older and she wanted to bring all the leftovers to her house. And I said, Mom, I can come help you and unpack. No, it's fine, I'll take care of it. I'm like, but if there's two of us, it'll be that much easier. And by the way, you're 87 and you have Parkinson's, like, let me help. 87, she's still resisting. And I do the same thing. My daughter offers to help when I have difficult things. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then why don't I look for help? Seek out support. Because when someone is helping you, you're spending less of your change bank account. You've got the burden shared. Find support that's available for you. And look for regular feedback and opportunities to grow. So this is really interesting, and I'm going to talk a lot more about these last two, because when your change is about yourself and growing in your career, these things show up as well. But let's say there's a big change going on in your work office. You want to get feedback. Maybe you're about to leave because you're having a child, or maybe you're considering retiring, and you want to get feedback about what do people think about this. The key to feedback, and Cheryl was hitting this, you have to ask, but you have to be very specific. Make sure you let people know you're really interested in their opinion and how you're going to use the feedback. And seek opportunities to learn and grow, because that's going to build your bank account. So let's talk about change in a career perspective. Let's say you're trying to advance your career. You're all here to learn something. There's a reason why, right? Let's say you want to grow your career. You want that next job. You want to climb that career ladder. Well, the good news and the bad news is career growth is organic. Back when the silent generation was in their jobs, there used to be these progression ladders. And you went from job A to B to C. It doesn't work like that anymore. And how you get jobs doesn't work like that anymore. It's all about networking and relationships and knowing how you're going to make one step and then the other. So the first thing to understand is that it doesn't happen instantly. And if you don't know this movie reference, this is from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Veruca. I don't care how I want it now. That is usually what we think. And frankly, as a baby boomer, this is a judgment we make of millennials all the time. It may not be fair, but what we hear is, I've been in this job for a minute and a half, when do I get my promotion? So here, the truth is, I don't want to go to this, I'm going to go back a second. So the truth is, you've got to gain some experience before somebody's going to really trust giving you that next step. It's going to take some time, and it is organic. It's going to take effort on your part. And the first part of that effort is really discovering what is your passion. And why do I start there? People would ask me this, like, Lisa, you're in HR. Passion has nothing to do with it. No, it actually does, and it has to do with your brain and how your brain is wired. Even if you have a money job where you're getting your paycheck and all you're doing is something you're very good at and you enjoy it, but it's not what you're passionate about, you've got to discover your passion. Even just as recent as last month, Harvard Business Review put out a research study that showed people who are engaged in something they're passionate about are better at work. They're more engaged, they're more productive, their health is better. Their brain science, when under a functional MRI, shows if you do anything on a regular basis that you're passionate about, all the other parts of your brain light up. So you've got to find something you're passionate about, something you love doing, something that when you get a chance to do it, time just flies. And you may be shocked by what it is you're passionate about. Early in my career, I would have said, I hate PowerPoint. And then there was a point in time where I got passionate about it. I learned the tool and I was like, oh, I can play with this, I can play with that. And the next thing I knew, I was spending hours on these presentations. Well, I was passionate about it. It was meaningful to me. But there are other things you can be passionate about. You could be passionate about what's happening in your community. You could be passionate about politics, about cooking, about photography. If you're lucky, you could be passionate about something that pays your bills. Imagine if you had a job where you showed up to work and you got to leverage all your strengths and do something you totally believe in. This is what I admire about Gen Z and millennials. You guys have this right. Too many people of my baby boomer generation thought, well, I'll do what I love once I retire. Really? No, do it now. Find out what it is, engage in it, find time for it. It will fill and refill and help your change bank account grow. And growth is not always easy. It's kind of like physical fitness. Wouldn't you guys love to watch the TV show The Biggest Loser or read a book about losing weight and then poof, you're thin? That'd be great. Wouldn't that be great? If all I had to do was think about it and I didn't have to put any effort in, I would so love that. It just doesn't work like that. You have to actually show up at the gym, and then not just show up, you actually have to work out. And you can't just walk slowly while you watch your favorite television show. You actually have to huff and puff, and oh my God, it's so much effort. Well, that's what growth is like. Growth is effort. Growth is challenging. Learning something new is not easy. But if it's something you're passionate about, you're more likely to give it a little bit more effort. And if you give it a little bit more effort, the more you learn, the more capable you will become. You know, if you ever exercised a muscle and then you realized, wow, I can do this now and I couldn't do this before. I don't know if any of you ever had to have rehab. I had to have it for, doesn't matter why. But I remember at one point I couldn't even do a simple exercise as stepping up on my right foot. Like, when am I going to be able to do that? And after hard work, I was able to step on that right foot. And it's something I took for granted for years till I didn't have it. Putting that effort in will pay back huge dividends. And let me tell you why that's so important. Because you don't get your job because you put enough time in. You don't get to advance because you've been doing this for 2 years and now it's time. You don't get to advance because you attended a training program or did a 360 feedback or hired an executive coach. Which, feel free, both Cheryl and I are all available. But besides that, that's not why you advance. The way you advance is by doing the work. Advancement comes through demonstrated competence. Now, I'm going to give you all a secret. I worked in HR for 3 decades. When we looked at people for succession, who's going to be the next one to advance, they had to be 75% ready before we'd consider them. Not 100%, because then they're already bored. Not 50%, because that's too risky. 75% ready. And how did we assess that? We looked at their track record. What have they done before? And so this is 70% of your competence comes from your experience. And your experience means stepping outside and trying something new and learning something new and demonstrating that you're capable. Now, the truth is also, women tend to think I can't apply for a job unless I have 100% of the job specifications. I have to be able to say I've done everything before I can apply for that job. I just told you that's not true. 75%. And if you're at 50%, all you have to do is find out what are the core competencies that are necessary in that next job, that next level up, the one I'm really seeking. And once I know what they are, then you can start looking for it. You can start asking for it. Remember we talked about feedback and this idea of getting feedback? This is such a great opportunity to say, look, I want the opportunity to try something I've never done before. And I'm willing to get feedback on it so that I can get better at it. I touched my microphone, don't do that. Warning. All right, get back on track. As your manager, if you come to me and say, I want to get experience in Jane's job, I'm going to be like, you've never done it before. Why am I going to put you on that? What's in it for me? I'm nervous about that risk. That is a very difficult position you're putting your manager in. But if you say to your manager, eventually, I want to get a job in marketing. I noticed that some of Jane's work lets her learn something about marketing, and I would like to get that opportunity too. Is there anything I could work on now that would give you assurance that I would be ready to take on some of Jane's work? You just laid out a map for your manager saying, I take accountability for my growth and my development. I'm just telling you what I'm looking for, and I'm wondering if you can help me get there. Remember, key to reducing resistance, get support. Your manager is a great place for support. But if you're not speaking the same language, like Cheryl was talking about this morning, your manager may not understand what you're asking for. And the generational differences sometimes cloud people's expectations. So instead of saying, okay, when can I get my next advancement, say, this is the job I'm seeking, this is the competency I'm looking to gain, any suggestions on how I might be able to do that while I'm in this job? You'll be shocked how many more opportunities there will be for you. Now, connections count too. So right now, you're at an event with 300 people. I want to challenge you. This is not a game of collecting business cards. I want you to meet at least 5 people today that you never met before. I want you to know one fact about them that you found interesting. And if they're not interesting, keep talking, because I guarantee there's something interesting about everyone you're sitting with. Take advantage of it. These are the things that make the difference. I told you career growth is organic. Change is about growing and learning and developing and making more of what you've got. The next step is really taking the actions. And your first action has got to be networking. It's critical. And while you can do it today and in this room for purpose of making connections with people, you never know how you're going to use them in the future. You may say, oh my gosh, I remember you 6 months later. I met you at an event. Remember we were there when that lady touched your mic and it got really loud? When you're on the job, find out who's been where you want to go and get to know them and let them get to know you. This is growth. This is change. Make that effort. Even if it's just one person a week. I know I'm really extroverted, so I talk to everybody all the time. If you're introverted, just target one person a week. Maybe have lunch with someone different and learn from them and give them a chance to get to know you. That's how this organic growth in your career happens. But also, oops, too far. Also, Get to know people even if you have no agenda. Remember how I told you about when your brain is inspired, when you feel passion about something, all the neurons are firing. Who inspires you? Who's somebody you would love to just sit down and have a cup of coffee with and let them talk? Because like Cheryl said, people like to talk about ourselves. We do. And if somebody's curious and interested, we'll tell you all about ourselves. We're happy to do it. This is something I love about women. Women have this down. Men have to go play golf. No offense, men. But their eyes, I have 2 boys, and I learned a long time ago, if I really want to have a conversation with them, we have to be driving. So there's no eye contact involved. But my daughter, we can, eye to eye. So if there's someone who inspires you, set up a curiosity meeting where I'm just curious. I'd love to know more about you. 2 things are going to happen. You're going to learn, which remember that ups your bank account. And the second thing is you're going to be inspired, which increases the neurons firing and your engagement in your work and your life. The only good things come from it. You just have to be brave enough to get curious. Then the next thing around the feedback, let people know their opinion matters to you. So here's a really good example. Early in my career, I got feedback that, it's hard to say, that I was intimidating. And I'm like, really? I'm 5 feet tall. I smile from ear to ear all the time. I talk to everybody. How could it be intimidating? So I went up to one of the women I worked with and I walked right up to her and I said, Jane, I just got feedback that I was intimidating. Can you tell me what that's about? Jane said, you're doing it right now. Okay, I was a little slow because I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't understand. What am I doing? Okay, I was really direct. I was in her face. I was making her accountable for my problem. Like, seriously. A little bit of thought. So I learned. And the next time I was having a meeting, I pulled someone aside and I said, listen, I'm working on not coming across as intimidating. And I could really use your help. In this meeting, if you see me doing anything that could be perceived as intimidating, I'd really like your feedback. Your opinion really matters to me. Would you be willing to help me? And this colleague said, sure, fine, no problem. I learned so much. First of all, when you put it out there and you're vulnerable like that, and you tell someone what you're trying to learn and that their opinion matters, you're going to try harder to do well, right? If nobody knows what you're working on, nobody cares if you don't do it. But if somebody knows, now I've got a witness, and I'm going to be more accountable. But I also learned a really important leadership skill, which is I am an extrovert. I do touch myself when I talk. I am in people's face. I'm loud. I'm all of those things. And so as a leader, I learned to say to my teams, guys, look, when I express my opinion, it's going to come out really loud and passionate, like it's the only answer in the world. But it's not, and your opinions matter to me. So I want to hear those as well. So please don't let my passion stop you. And inevitably, someone will be brave enough to say, well, Lisa, I think we should do it differently. And as soon as I reinforce that, they learned, oh, she's not so intimidating after all. It was just, something I assumed based on her nature. So feedback's critical. Let people know their opinion matters. And self-reflection. Okay, I didn't know everything Cheryl was going to say, but I can't agree with her more. And I know what the next Cheryl's going to say, and I know she's going to talk about a lot of this too. Self-reflection is critical. And be honest with yourself. Don't be like those people who show up on American Idol thinking they can sing when everybody knows they can't. Don't do that, right? Be honest. Learn about yourself. We all are different. We all have different traits. We all have different triggers. Do that honest self-assessment of your strengths and your improvement areas. And then seek support to be able to work on it. All of these things will help you to learn and grow, which will feed your change bank account. So when demands are placed on you, or when plans change that you never thought were going to change, you will have the skills you need to be able to respond in the moment. Oops, I missed one. Most importantly, you've got to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. 98% of the population is likely to stay where they're comfortable. You know this place. This is a place of, ooh, I don't want to speak up. I might not sound like I know what I'm talking about. Or I don't want to get up on that stage because everybody will be looking at me and I'll just lose a few pounds first and then I'll do it. I once did that, by the way. I don't want to get going on that now. I'll do it later. I know I'm supposed to update my resume, but I'll get to that later. I know I'm supposed to network with people, but I just don't feel like it today. This is staying in your comfort zone. And this is our ego saying, be safe. And this is spending from your change bank account. It's running out of the bottom of the bank without you even realizing you're depleting your bank. The only way to really beef up your skills and muscles around change is to step outside that comfort zone. To do it even though you're afraid. To choose something that's scary. To try something new, to go one step further than you think is comfortable. Just dip your toe in the water. Because I learned today from listening to Maury Album, he has a new book out about finding Chica in heaven. If you don't know him, he's the one who did Tuesdays with Maury. He was asked, what is the way to get happiness into your life? And if you have money, isn't it a lot easier? And he said, I never would have found happiness if I hadn't stepped out of my comfort zone. His first move was to call that professor, who then said, come visit me. Yeah, do I really want to visit a professor? And he visited him. And that set up Tuesdays with Maury. Later, it was to go to Haiti and try and help out just because he knew he could, but he didn't really want to go to Haiti. He really had no interest in that kind of effort, where he found the girl who would be his daughter. Read the book, it's moving. Stepping outside your comfort zone opens the possibility for happiness. Stepping outside your limiting beliefs creates freedom. And it enables you to change and grow. And that bank account gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Thank you.